I can't believe after all these years, we are seeing another one of these fake news RussiaGate conspiracy stories. You know what the press has been doing for the longest time, mostly during the height of the RussiaGate conspiracy theory? Publishing a bombshell report and the next day retracting it. Over and over again. In fact, I have a story from The Intercept where they go through the top 10 times the media has published fake news about Russia and Trump and then had to retract it. And what do we get now? Lawrence O'Donnell apparently had a source, air quotes here, who didn't see any documents, but assured him Trump was getting his loan signed off by the Russians. And he actually reported it. And then he had to retract it. But you know what they say? The lie travels halfway around the world before the truth straps on his boots. People hear the lie and they never hear the retraction. Lawrence O'Donnell tweeted, "A source close to Deutsche Bank says Trump's tax returns show he pays very little income tax, and more importantly, that his loans have Russian co-signers. If true, that explains every kind word Trump has ever said about Russia and Putin." The last word, 10 p.m. Actually, no, it doesn't. Just because someone's friends with a Russian or worked with them doesn't mean they're working for the government. That's conspiracy level insanity. How is it that MSNBC is going to put out this insane fake news about Russia after Mueller already disproved the conspiracy? You can tell why I'm so frustrated by this fake news over and over again, because at what point can we sit down and say, we're over Russia, it's done, it's fake? Well, surprise, surprise, Lawrence O'Donnell had to apologize. Last night, I made an error in judgment by reporting an item about the president's finances that didn't go through our rigorous verification and standards process. I shouldn't have reported it, and I was wrong to discuss it on the air. I will address the issue on my show tonight. But guess what? The retraction, 8,000 retweets. The lie, 38,000 retweets. What do you think this is doing to the American psyche? We see all these reports about Trump's approval rating being low. Is it possible it's low because the press keeps lying? Because they'll put out a negative story and then whisper the retraction? I think it's fairly possible. I also think it's possible the polls are lying too. Why would MSNBC put up a fake story like this? In fact, you know what's really crazy about this? Lawrence O'Donnell even admits if they actually did their standard editorial process, it never would have gotten out. Why did he then skip that process? Well, I'll tell you what. We see the tweets. Let's read the story, interestingly enough, from NBC News, who also didn't verify and vet the claims, and noting there's a conflict of interest here, but I want to hear what they have to say. So I also want to go through some polls about the press, and I want to show you another story where the Washington Post has actually tried to smear another conservative and then retracted again. It's what they do. It's like they're sowing division on purpose. So let's read the story. However, before we get started, go to youtube.com/TimcastIRL, a new channel which will feature on-the-ground reporting, travel vlogs, fun and silliness. But for the most part, I'm going to be in the van. I'm going to go meet people across the country, go to the borders, do some actual field reporting. I am honored that as of right now, this new channel with one video has almost 34,000 subscribers, which means I think once we get started with the field reporting, it's going to do fantastic. And then I can actually bring you that straight truth from the ground and bypass the fake news about what's really happening, at least to the best of my abilities. However, I still will be doing the same content I do every single day. The van is allowing me to do all of it. So I'm aiming for daily content. We'll see. Well, let's get back to the news, and let's read what NBC News has to say about MSNBC's terrible reporting. They report MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell says he should not have reported unverified claim on air about Trump loans. The last word host acknowledged that he shouldn't have discussed the information provided by a single unnamed source because it didn't meet our standards. How did Lawrence O'Donnell get to bypass the standard practice? Like, what did he do? Does he have special privilege where he goes to his boss and says, by the way, this story, we're not going to vet. I'm just going to say it on TV. Or is it possible they do it on purpose to make money? Let me tell you something. When you write a fake news story, you get 1 million clicks. You make money. You've sold those ad spaces. And guess what? When you retract the next day, you don't have to give the money back. So maybe that's why MSNBC is allowed to bypass standards, because they know it'll drive ratings, and they also know the retraction itself will drive ratings too. In my opinion, they do it on purpose. They report. There's the headline again. They say he shouldn't have reported it. The last word host opened his show Wednesday night by saying he repeated statements from a single source that weren't ready for reporting, and probably never will be. That's me adding that. and that he did not go through the network's rigorous verification and standards process before repeating it, and that, quote, had it gone through that process, I would not have been permitted to report it. Tonight, we are retracting the story. We don't know whether the information is accurate, but the fact is we do know it wasn't ready for broadcast, and for that, I apologize. Let me add, how many people heard that, believe it's true, hear the retraction and go, no, but it's still probably true. I mean, they have some evidence, right? So they know. A lot of people won't hear the retraction, and a lot of people will hear the retraction but plug their ears and say, nope, I don't want to believe it's fake. I want to believe it's real. They know it. They have to know it. Look, I'll stress the point again. How do you bypass your own standards? What did Lawrence O'Donnell do in that office where he was like, by the way, we're not going to fact check this one. We're just going to air it. That seems weird. But they keep doing it. They always do this. Now, I'm not going to, we get it, right? They add, NBC News has not viewed the Deutsche Bank records and has not been able to verify what the source told O'Donnell. Apparently, this guy never saw the documents. Their source never saw the documents. So how it's hearsay. A guy heard from another guy that something in a piece of paper, and that's a source for you? Did you know that most news organizations require three sources before you can report? So this to me seems deliberate. I can't say it is, but you know what? They keep doing it. And it's like, you know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Third, you're not going to fool me a third time, right? Well, Donald Trump responded. In this story from The Hill, they highlight Trump's tweets where he said, crazy Lawrence O'Donnell, who has been calling me wrong from even before I announced my run for the presidency, even being previously forced by NBC to apologize, which he did while crying. Was he really crying, or is Trump just being a troll here? For things he said about me and The Apprentice, was again forced to apologize this time for the ridiculous claim of all, the most ridiculous claim of all, that Russia, or Russian oligarchs co-signed loan documents for me, a guarantee. Totally false, as is virtually everything else he and much of the rest of the lamestream media has said about me for years. Apologize. Well, I'll tell you what. Lamestream media is a bit of a boomer term, but I forgive you, Trump, because in this instance, I think you're right. Look, I have this story from The Intercept from January. Beyond BuzzFeed, the 10 worst, most embarrassing U.S. media failures on the Trump-Russia story. Now, The Intercept is a fairly progressive outlet. I disagree with them on a lot of things. We agree on a lot of things, though, like, you know, anti-war stuff. And we agree on a lot of things like the Trump-Russia conspiracy theory was just that, a conspiracy theory. But in January, Glenn Greenwald put together this list of all of these stories that they published and later retracted. But again, people hear this and they think it's real. That's why we have this unhinged RussiaGate conspiracy group. Look, Rachel Maddow, whatever your opinion is, to me looked like she was on the verge of tears when Mueller came out saying the RussiaGate was not true. There was a viral video of a woman laughing, saying she's crying. Well, she wasn't crying, but her eyes were watering and she was choking up. That's what they've invested in this. But when you see all of these stories, you can't, I mean, honestly, I can't help but feel sorry for these people. When you're inundated with lies all day, I mean, you can't help but believe it. Look at this one. RT hacked and took over C-SPAN. Totally fake. Never happened. Russian hackers invaded the U.S. electrical grid to deny Vermonters heat during the winter. Washington Post. Never happened. Hold on. There's more. How about a deranged anonymous group is claiming that a bunch of media outlets that declares mainstream political sites on the left and right as Russian propaganda. And the Washington Post touted its report to claim massive Kremlin infiltration. Let's move on through these quickly. They say Anthony Scaramucci is involved in a Russian hedge fund. That's fake news, but it's funny because Scaramucci apparently is coming after Trump now. Then we have Russia attacked U.S. diplomats using a super sophisticated sonic microwave weapon. NBC and MSNBC reported that one. It's unverified. We don't know what's happening. It's an interesting story, though. But come on, tone it down, guys. How about this one? Trump created a secret internet server to covertly communicate with a Russian bank. Slate. Fake news. Then we have Paul Manafort visiting Julian Assange 3 times, except nobody noticed. And that's been refuted and denied, and there's no evidence. It's fake news. Number 3, CNN lied about Lanny Davis being its source because Lanny Davis came out and said, hey, I retract my statements, and CNN was like, nope, we're not going to retract. Robert Mueller possessed internal emails and witness interviews proving Trump directed Cohen to lie to Congress. And then what do we get? Mueller himself refuting that story. And the big one of the best, was when they claimed that Donald Trump Jr. was offered advanced access to the WikiLeaks email archive. You know why? They misread the date on the email. That's it. They were like, wait a minute, how did he have these documents before it was published? He didn't. You read the date wrong. But they publish all of these stories. A day later, they retract. And so it's no surprise then that nobody trusts the press anymore. So here's the thing. I've got this poll from Rasmussen talking about how people don't trust media. Before I show this, though, because this is the pertinent transition, I would say, I just want to highlight this story here from the Washington Post. Washington Post publishes Retract's attempt to link conservative author to white nationalism. It's not just Trump. They all do this. They write fake stories, fake research, because it's all about politics. And I got to admit, it's terrifying. You know, the other day I made a video about this research that came out claiming that channels like mine were feeding into the alt-right. They were trying to prove the radicalization nonsense, but it's not true. You know why? What they did was they arbitrarily decided what channels were intellectual dark web, alt-light, or alt-right. And it made no sense. They branded some straight news channels with no opinions and no political discourse as alt-light. So what they did is they found comments and then claimed, oh, here's what's happening. They comment on Tim's video, then Sargon, and then the alt-right. Not true. What they were really doing is commenting on random videos, and then they lined up the channels to make it look that way. That's the game they play. They try to link a conservative to white nationalism. Yeah, because they're embracing this twisted far left agenda where they claim everything is, white nationalism. It's not true. It's insane. But it's no surprise we see this. After everything I've shown you, I'm going to assume you're not surprised. In fact, I'll say this. The headline and thumbnail of the video, you were probably like, yep, what else is new? But check this out from Rasmussen. Highlighting a tweet from Joe Concha who said, more than 35,000 retweets and 80,000 likes on this tweet boasting a single-sourced report where said source hasn't seen the documents that serve as the basis of the allegation. MSNBC declined to comment on this report. NBC News has not verified it. Well, then we have this poll. I highlighted this before, but it does bear repeating. Do you trust the political news you are getting? No, 54%. Yes, 32%. So yeah, most people don't believe it. Check this out though. When they write or talk about President Trump, are most reporters trying to help the president pass his agenda, block the president from passing his agenda, or are they simply interested in reporting the news in an unbiased manner? 51% block the president from passing his agenda. Now, here's the thing. Rasmussen is called a conservative pollster. They're accused of being biased. In their approval ratings of the president, they put him over 50% on numerous occasions. No other poll does that. They say clearly Rasmussen is biased. You know what? Perhaps. Perhaps all the other outlets are biased. Perhaps the other outlets aren't biased, but people have been lied to so much, they believe the fake news about the president. Or imagine that these news outlets are not correcting for the fact that people were eating fake news, and Rasmussen may be. If the AP, Associated Press just says, do you support Trump or not? They might say no. But what if Rasmussen says, a series of fake stories like these, are you aware of them? And then when people finally get the correct view saying, oh, those stories were fake, how do you feel about Trump's presidency? They might say yes. Or it's entirely possible Rasmussen is totally biased, in which case, I'll tell you what, as a moderate, I don't know who to trust. Check this out. This one's hilarious. Reed Wilson, who is a correspondent at The Hill, tweeted this. What TV news source do you trust the most? Fox News, 24%. PBS and NPR, 13%. CNN, 10%. MSNBC, 7%. And it goes down from there. I'm surprised C-SPAN has 2%, because C-SPAN is like raw footage of the congressional floor. But interestingly, Fox News is both the most trusted and the least trusted, according to this poll he highlighted. And it's really weird. We can see this. What TV news or commentary source do you trust the most? Fox News, 23.5%. What TV news or commentary source do you trust the least? And there's Fox News, 39%. Now, there's 394 people who answered in that one, and 235 it looks like. So here's the issue. I understand Fox News is going to take Trump's side on a lot of issues. I know Fox and Friends is going to run content that's more conservative. Do I trust them? You know what? I got to be honest. On some issues, yes, but mostly no. However, I also know that CNN is jokingly referred to as the Orange Man Bad Channel. So am I going to trust them? No, I'm not. And actually, let me clarify about the people here and why the numbers are. It's because they surveyed 1,000 people. So of the 1,000, 235 said they trust Fox News. But I'm in the middle. I want to know who to vote for. I can see lies on every side. And so what do? I understand they don't trust Fox News, but look, when it comes to far left violence and things about free speech, Fox News is going to get it right. Why? Because I've fact checked all this stuff. When it comes to Trump, they're more likely going to get it right than, say, CNN or MSNBC, especially after this Lawrence O'Donnell story. But I know that a bias exists. So the problem I'm facing is that Fox News is closer to reality than CNN and MSNBC are. I mean, Fox News has had to issue retractions, and I'm not a big fan of their political pundits for their opinions. I think Tucker does a decent job, but there's a lot of things I disagree with him on. And notably, I've had no problem going on my channel and saying I disagree with Tucker Carlson on this, this, and this. It's fine. I think people understand there can be respectable and rational discourse. But what do you do when you distrust Fox News and you only get your news from CNN or MSNBC and they just pump you full of fake news? I think it's driving a serious problem in this country because it's not just about whether the stories are fake. It's about the increase in the partisan divide. Not only do people distrust the press because they're lying to them with fake news, it's beyond the fake news, it's for a political agenda. So even when they tell you the truth, it's framed in such a way to manipulate you. And I have an example. The other day I did a video talking about NBC. They claimed Trump made a racist comment saying this country is ours and not theirs in reference to the squad, Ocasio-Cortez. And they said it echoes, the racist remarks he's made in the past about them. The only problem? He wasn't talking about race. He was talking about class. Trump issued a statement that said, this is a country for all Americans of every zip code, not the coastal elites and liberal mega donors. It is our country, not theirs. What he was saying was, it's a country for the working class Americans, not the super wealthy who are trying to sway politics in big cities. What did NBC News do? Tried making it sound like Trump was actually making a racist comment, saying ours was about being white. That's how they framed it. And I read the story and I was angered by it. I can't say I'm shocked though. So when you have a story like that, where they're trying to drag the president, is it any wonder that Rasmussen finds this? They're trying to block the president from passing his agenda? I agree with that. I don't trust them. The New York Times recently had a transcript leaked where they said we focus on Russia. Now we're going to focus on Trump's racism because it's not about the news. It's about the agenda. So you end up with huge lists. You end up with stories, like Glenn Greenwald. And here's the funny thing about the Glenn Greenwald story. There are 10 more stories, okay? There were 20. He gave his top 10, but they're honorable mentions. That's how insane it is. For years, they have been playing the same game. But we see it outside of Trump as well. And I know you guys who watch YouTube videos, you see it affect us YouTubers. How they'll lie and publish, twisted and factually incorrect information. They'll misframe it. They're trying their hardest to get our channels deleted. And, I was dealing with it, I mentioned the story the other day where they put out fake research where they try and claim there's a pipeline to the alt-right. They keep doing it. And then we see YouTube actually ban channels. They try to claim a conservative as a white nationalist, and that's the game they're playing. They're trying to spin the wheel and push everything to the far left. But I'll tell you what, man, the fake news, the lies and the smears aren't doing what they think it's doing. It's not creating more leftists. It's just fracturing our society. I think in the end, when they push this, it's going to result in truly terrifying violence and extreme, actions. I was talking to someone the other day and they said, it's never been in this country that people were protesting each other, their friends and neighbors, like in small towns, going out, standing across the street from someone they know, they go to church with, or they, bought pizza with, and they're holding up signs protesting each other. How does it get to that point? I think I've talked about the idea of a civil war and all that stuff, and I don't want to be, overly dramatic, because I don't think it's going to be like, big factions marching, and I want to stress that point. But when you have neighbor protesting neighbor, what do you think's going to happen? And what's driving it? It's not the president. He contributes for sure, but what's driving it is fake news. Fake news, right here, Daily Caller. Fake news, NBC, MSNBC. We know it. They do it all the time. So you know what? I don't know what the cure is. I really don't. And you get the people on the media on the left saying Trump is attacking the press, and it's like, come on, man. I read these stories so much every day. It's always just the same narrative. I'm going to end with one final point. The Washington Post newsroom has a roach problem. Has nothing to do with anything. But I'd highlight this. A memo says it's a newsroom problem and not happening on other floors. This from the Washingtonian, whatever. The Washington Post. has roaches, I guess. They have a roach problem. And that's about it. But I will say metaphorically and figuratively and literally, these outlets all have a roach problem. I'm not trying to drag every journalist as a bug, and I'm not trying to be insulting, but we did just see what happens with the New York Times and the bed bugs things if you saw that story. The point is, there are some really bad people at these outlets. There are some really bad people, and we know it. And so what do you get? You have actual bugs. Maybe you should clean up. But we also have a fake news problem. So I'm highlighting this just to be kind of silly. So I'll leave it there. Thanks for hanging out. Stick around. Next segment will be coming up at youtube.com/TimCastNews at 6 p.m. I don't know what the solution to the fake news problem is. You know, I really don't. But I'm going to keep talking about it, and I'm going to keep trying to highlight it. So I appreciate you guys hanging out. Stick around. Next segment coming soon, and I will see you then.